Welcome to the Unfiltered Show from the beautiful Score Studios. My name is Joseph Casciaro. That's Tyler McKillop. Joining us from New York, as always, is Brad Parker. What is that? Is that a John Starks jersey there, Parker?
That is a John Starks jersey, and I want to have a moment of silence for my Knicks, but I also want to have a moment of excitement because we are back, and we are back on the map. We only lost because we were injured.
Yeah, definitely part of it. I do think it's fitting you wore a John Starks jersey the day after the Knicks were eliminated because I know John Starks was a great player for the Knicks, but my memories, one of my first memories as a basketball fan, as a 5-year-old, was John Starks shooting 2 of 18 in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. So very fitting you wore that the day after the Knicks were run out of their own building. But apologies to Brad. We're going to forget the Knicks. We're going to start talking about the 4 teams that are still playing basketball right now. And for the 24th or 25th straight season, the Knicks are not one of those last 4 teams, unfortunately. Again, apologies to Brad. I know that injuries played a factor. The Knicks should have been there.
Well, one team did shoot 67% from the field. That can't be stopped.
The Pacers having the most efficient Game 7 performance of all time also played into that. But, fellas, the conference finals are here. And with all due respect to Celtics Pacers, I think I can speak for everyone here when I say Mavs Wolves is what we're all waiting for. Now, these playoffs have kind of represented a changing of the guard in the association when you kind of talk about the youth movement and the players that have shown out. The players that got eliminated early were the older guys. And Anthony Edwards and Luka Doncic, for the most part, have really defined that changing of the guard. They've been the biggest parts of that, I guess, in terms of the young players showing out this spring. Now they're going to match up in the Western Conference Finals. My question to both of you is, if you could have one of those guys between Edwards and Doncic to start a franchise with right now, who is it? Tyler, let's start with you.
Well, I want to be honest in the fact that it's a youth movement for sure, but Luka's had the worst postseason of his career if we're looking at the numbers. Like I was curious about this last night, so I looked into it, and he's shooting in the postseason right now just over 40% from the field, just over 42% from the field, just over 30% from 3. I think this is undoubtedly, and the reason why he's making his first conference final is this is the best cast that he's had. PJ Washington was terrific in that previous series as well. I'm really interested to see how he performs with the matchup and the difficulty that is with the Wolves. I said to you guys, I think the other week, that I'm a prisoner of the moment when it comes to this, and Luka's been a guy that is really, I've started to, I don't want to say a 180 on, just with the amount of complaining, the amount of excuses from the injury front, and then the performance in this postseason to be kind of, I think, carried by the rest of the roster, which is great for him and something that he needs. But from the same side of things with Anthony Edwards, I believe Game 7, the T-Wolves improved to, I believe it was 8-1 on the season when Edwards had scored 10 or less points. So these guys are, the cast that's supporting them has done a great job and is the reason why they're here. And you can especially say that for Luka because he's been, this is his 5th postseason, I think. I still am of the belief that I would probably, if I'm building a team, I'd still go with Luka and his ability to, affect play even when he isn't making these shots, and we're seeing that in this postseason. Whereas Edwards, I do see some of those quieter performances where he doesn't hold a big impact on the game, like we saw in the early parts of Game 7. And Luka's someone that doesn't need to score to affect the outcome. So I would be taking Luka. I've definitely had a little bit more sway to Anthony Edwards over the course of the last couple of weeks. But I say there were bothersome things from Luka. I don't know what you thought, Brad. The Anthony Edwards 3 celebration to kind of put the game away in the last minute there when he was 6 of 22 from the field in the game. I was like, maybe we took care of business. I don't think we need to let every guy in the building know that we did it when we certainly weren't putting on a show on, what was that, Sunday night. So I'm still taking Luka, though.
See, I love that. I love that celebration. I love taunting the crowd. I love rubbing it in. I'm a bad sport. Ant-Man is what we need. And I hate to disagree with you. You're my boy. But this one is really, really tough. And I feel like there's no wrong answer here. But if I'm starting a franchise, I'm not just looking at these playoffs in a microscope. I'm looking at the overall big picture. I'm taking Ant-Man all day. Sure, Luka, can do a little bit of everything or a lot of it. But he's already 8th on the all-time triple-double list. But I'm still taking Ant-Man. One of the main reasons, though, age. Ant-Man's, he's only 22 years old. He's turning 23 this summer. He has the mentality of a savage vet who's been there before. And, when was the last time we've seen this? Maybe a guy named Kobe Bryant. I don't know. I don't remember someone having a mentality like this at such a young age and the confidence. I'm not saying Luka's old by any means. He's 25 going on 26, but to have the mentality of a Kobe or an MJ at just age 22, how are you going to stop that? He's only going to get better. His game continues to grow. He's averaging 4 dimes, 5 boards for his career, while Luka's basically doubled that. But look for those numbers from Ant-Man to only increase. It's the trash talking for me as well. I mean, look at him walking out of the tunnel and back into the locker rooms, leaving the arena, talking about how he had Jamal Murray in handcuffs after Game 7. His competitive nature is off the charts. He's also a better defender than Luka, and he complains to the refs a little less. Something I can't stand to watch out of Luka. But yes, if I'm starting a franchise tomorrow, give me the Ant-Man all day.
So Cash is breaking the tie here.
I'm the tiebreaker. I can't believe that I'm gonna say this because I try not to be a prisoner of the moment that Tyler talked about. In this case, I have to be a prisoner of the moment, and I'm gonna lean Ant. And again, I feel crazy saying that because of how highly I view and value Luka Doncic. And this is something I know you guys have heard me talk about this before, but our audience hasn't. So I'm just gonna throw it out there. When Luka Doncic gets named an All-NBA first teamer this week, which he will, based on the season he just had, it will be his 5th All-NBA first team selection already. He's only been in the league 6 seasons. He's only 25 years old. He's only 2.5 years older than Ant. That will tie him, with Charles Barkley, Jason Kidd, Julius Erving, and George Mikan, just to name a few, and it'll leapfrog him past Steph Curry, Chris Paul, Dirk Nowitzki, Kevin Garnett, David Robinson, Moses Malone, Walt Frazier, and John Havlicek. Like, what Luka Doncic has already accomplished in his career at 25 years old, 6 years in, is unfathomable. And he's the more transcendent offensive talent. And yet I'm going with Ant because I think there is an it factor with Anthony Edwards and a relentlessness. And I'm with you, Brad. I enjoy that trash talk. And even I get what you're saying about, look, he shot 6 of 24 for him to be the one waving. But the one thing I'll give Ant is I think that game was a perfect example of why he's going to be the player he's going to be, and it already is, where, I don't think anyone saw Anthony Edwards as a defensive difference maker coming into the NBA. He had the body to do it, and he's getting better at it. But then Game 7, with his shot not falling, his most important contribution was locking up, as he said, having Jamal Murray in handcuffs in the second half. Totally disrupted the Nuggets offense when Ant picked up Jamal Murray. And then on the offensive end, I still think, especially when you're that superstar player, you're the alpha, you're the number one option on offense. Yes, obviously you want to shoot better, but I think it's very important to have that mentality that you're never going to get gun shy, right? You're going to keep letting it fly, getting to your spots, taking good shots. And Ant was doing that. And his aggressiveness on offense, the Nuggets were still doubling him pretty much all game. His playmaking, which has gotten a lot better, helped spur the comeback. So I think he is, again, as crazy as it is to say, I think he actually is the more complete package right now. Again, I think Luka's the more talented offensive player, better playmaker for sure, better scorer. Luka, I think, has the highest or one of the highest scoring averages all time in NBA history, minimum, however many games played. The thing with Luka is because he doesn't do anything off the ball, he kind of just stands around when the ball's not in his hands, and because of his defensive limitations, even though he's the more talented player, I think constructing a team around him is a little more difficult because there are more holes to fill. Yep. Because he doesn't do anything off the ball, because of his defensive limitations. And so I think you can make the argument he's more talented, but that constructing a title contender around Edwards is a little easier. Around that mold of player is a little easier. Right. And that's why I would take him by the slimmest of margins.
And we're going to talk about it. I know we're going to talk about next because we've chatted about what we're going to be talking about on the show. And I think that goes right into what the construct of the Cavaliers is like right now. And that you're absolutely right. Because when you talk about Anthony Edwards, you're talking about his effectiveness in the matchup with how's he going to guard? Is he going to be matching up with Kyrie Irving? Is he going to be matching up with Luka defensively? There are key aspects of his game that benefit them on that side of the floor. With Luka, you don't even have that conversation. We're not talking about what Luka's doing defensively in this particular series. So I think that's definitely a great point. And Ant is what? Is he 2 years?
He's 2.5 years younger.
Yeah.
2.5 years younger.
I mean, there's still a lot of development there. There's development for both of these guys, but I think in a lot of ways we're seeing what Luka Doncic will be in his career. I don't know if quite yet we've seen what Anthony Edwards will be as a finished product too. So
I'm to the Ant-Man side. Oh yeah, Cash, way to break the tie, baby. Let's go.
That's what I'm here for. All right, Tyler mentioned it in the way the Cavs are constructed around a similar type
Well,
of
with
guard with some limitations that make it maybe
Yeah.
tougher to build around. And that guard, of course, is Donovan Mitchell. And he's got a very, very interesting summer ahead of him. He's got 1 year left on his contract and is extension eligible in about 6 weeks. Now, if he chooses not to extend, you'd have to figure Cleveland's going to shop him this summer rather than risk losing him for nothing in 2025 free agency. Because remember, the Cavs gave up Lauri Markkanen, Colin Sexton, Ochai Agbaji, 3 first-round draft picks outright, and 2 first-round pick swaps to get him, and none of those picks have even conveyed yet. They're all between 2025 and 2029. So, again, the Cavs just can't risk losing him for nothing. If he does hit the trade market, where do you guys want to see Spida land? Is it the Knicks, Brad? I feel like that's probably going to be your answer. Is it the Nets? Is it the Lakers? If the Rockets are in, the Heat are in the mix. Which one of these teams do you think is the best landing spot for Donovan Mitchell? If it's not Cleveland. I don't know. Maybe you guys think just staying put in Cleveland's the right way to go. Brad?
Cash, interesting you asked that. And you would think that I would say Knicks. Listen, if you asked me this a year ago, 150%, yes, I would have said the Knicks. But I'm not going to lie. I wanted Donovan Mitchell here over Brunson for sure. But if you're seeing what Jalen Brunson has done for my Knicks, I'm not messing with this nucleus. Donovan Mitchell could go anywhere but the Knicks. They only lost, like I said in the beginning, and I'll say it again, they only lost because they were injured. And healthy beats injured all day, 10 out of 10 times. And they'll be back next year. But with that being said, the basketball fan in me would love to see Donovan Mitchell in L.A. And if Rob Pelinka could somehow find a way to link LeBron, AD, and Donovan Mitchell together, I think hands down, that is the best big 3 in the game. Granted, LeBron stays, and, AD's healthy, which is a big what if, but he had one of the healthiest, if not the healthiest season of his career. D. Mitch at the 1, Austin Reeves at the 2, LeBron at the 3/4, Rui at the 3/4, and AD at the 5, with Bronny James coming off the bench, might I add.
We'll get to that.
God.
I mean, that's a problem. And the Lakers, they did finish the season going 11 of 14. They had quite the run to finish the season. Then they ran into the defending champs, but they definitely put up a fight. Every game was close for the most part. But they are missing that one piece, and I think Donovan Mitchell's him.
Okay. I'm going to, as respectfully as possible, team, producers, that camera right there, there is no world where Donovan Mitchell is playing for the Los Angeles Lakers. Honestly, I feel there's very little world where he's even traded, because you put it in the way that we're talking about this, in the picks that have not even been dealt out yet. There is no world where this Cavaliers team can feel comfortable with trading Donovan Mitchell and being okay as an organization moving forward in the future. Like, there's no world where you're getting anything near the package you gave up for Donovan Mitchell, and you're definitely not getting it from the Lakers, in my opinion. I think this is a team that, of course, has its flaws, and I really think we should get into that. We have a Cavs team that has had Donovan Mitchell for 2 seasons here. Like, there's no world where I think they let this guy go in the offseason. Like, they want to have that extra year, especially with playing without Mobley and Garland for about 2 months of the season. Again, we talked about this, I think, the other week too, is Shams dropping another bomb like within moments of the game being over, talking about the fact that this team wasn't happy with Bickerstaff. They had who was it that came in? Their president. Why am I blanking on his name right now?
Kobe Altman.
Yeah, Altman came in and ripped Bickerstaff for playing Mitchell for like 48 minutes in a game in like December. And it was because they were so banged up. I kind of like the makeup of this Cavs team. I think there's some tinkering that needs to be done. They made a huge commitment to high volume 3-point shooting in the postseason and in the regular season. I believe they were like 6th or 7th in percentage of shots from 3, which is, I think it's still a makeup that can be successful. The Celtics, they're a team that leads the entire NBA in 3-point shooting, but they didn't have the pieces that contributed well enough to do that. Garland had a bit of a down year offensively. You can't really do that with a guy like Mobley, who takes like a couple. You need a big that can stretch the floor. Like, that's what the Celtics do with Porzingis and Horford. I think there's some tinkering they can do with this roster that doesn't take them to the level of championship contender, but could get them close to where they need to be and make Mitchell comfortable with extending and getting what is a 5-year, like $270 million payday?
It's over $200 million, that he's eligible for. Yeah, I think there's a lot of questions in Cleveland just because it's like, can you play with the 2 non-spacing bigs in 2024?
Yes.
And then, maybe the move is you trade Garland.
They're two guys that want to have the ball in their hands, and you need better complements to Mitchell in terms of 3-point shooting. Like they had a bad year from, like I believe Strus had a pretty down year from his.
And they don't have that fifth starter. Like they've been searching for that fifth starter. Isaac Okoro gets it. Dean Wade. Like if they trade Garland maybe for some pieces, none of which is a star, but that helps balance that roster. Or if they trade one of the bigs and end up with like a more balanced front court, I think that helps. But I can't believe I'm doing this if I'm breaking ties twice here. I can't believe
you're not gonna.
Brad and I are on.
You gotta be joking.
You
don't think that can actually happen?
I do, and here's why. Because
wait, Cash, I want to hear you say it.
Here's why. Because I do get that. Why it feels like there's no way the Lakers can get it done, right? Because of all the draft picks they traded back to get AD and all this stuff. But a lot of time has gone by since then, and time moves quickly in the NBA. Once the 2024 draft is over, the Lakers will be eligible and have access to trade their 2025 pick, a 2026 swap, their 2029 pick, their 2030 pick, or 2030 swap, and a 2031 pick. So they can do 3 picks and 2 swaps. Now, I don't think they would do that for 1 year of Donovan Mitchell. Remember, when the Cavs did that, Mitchell still had 3 years left on his deal, or 4 years, whatever it was. But the point is, the Lakers, they have the salary filler. Now, Reeves would have to be part of that, I think. Like, if you're Cleveland, you don't just want the picks. You want, like, a good young player, too. And I think Reeves would actually probably work well with Garland. He can be more of an off-ball guy. But So I think the Lakers can get there. They have the salary filler. They have a, somewhat attractive young piece in Reeves as part of that salary filler. And they actually do have some sneaky good draft capital coming up.
This is where the NBA just bothers me so much in that facet.
Here's the way I see it is, like, okay, the Knicks, as Brad was talking about, they've got Brunson, and I'm not even against teams having 2 ball-dominant guards, but I do think in this modern era with the second apron and how careful you have to be about giving out, where you give out your big money, I think you want it to be more balanced. And how great Brunson has been as the lead guy, I don't know if you want to commit so much more of, like, big money to another guard.
No, I don't like it either.
I would say the Knicks don't have to do it. The Nets, like, I kind of get it, but I don't know. Mitchell and Bridges, it's not bad, but it doesn't move me going forward. The Lakers, like, with how great LeBron and AD still are.
No, it works. Yeah, I do not disagree with that.
And that's what I'm saying. I think it works on the court. I think they sneakily do actually have the assets to do it. And if you're Donovan Mitchell, right, and you do have some influence here because you could put it out there of where, hey, if this team trades for me, I'll go play there for a year, but I'm not going to re-sign there. And then that team doesn't want to give up as much. I have a hard time believing he wouldn't want to be in LA, right?
Yeah.
In LA, baby. In LA. Also, imagine, and listen, not to quote the great Joakim Noah, but you know what he said about Cleveland.
What's there to do in Cleveland?
Why would you want to go to LA?
You like
By
Cleveland?
The way, it's so nice. It's so nice to have our in-house NBA expert agree with me 2 times.
I know. I'm getting worked over right now.
I can't believe it either, Brad, that we've agreed twice on the show. But
I don't think, like, I just can't fathom what that Cleveland fan base will feel like of the words from the front office of we're going to get, we're going to have more success than LeBron post LeBron return, and it goes from we take this big shot at Donovan Mitchell. We 2 seasons, 2 years where you're still in the midst of building, like a guy like Jared Allen. I think that's another guy that I would expect them to deal to help build around Mitchell. That's what I think is going to happen. I think he's staying in Cleveland ultimately, but they're not happy with Allen the way he handled the rib injury. Like I heard a lot of some players, front office thought he should be able to play through that. That's a guy that they can move. He's still young. He's like 26 that they could get pieces for. The Lakers, I get what you're saying with the Lakers.
And would fit. And the thing is, too, he actually works well as like a duo with AD if and when LeBron moves on. Like it shapes up perfectly. Now, the one thing I agree with you that the Cavs definitely wouldn't want to do this.
Yeah.
It's just if they come, I think July 6th he's eligible to actually sign the extension. If they come to him on July 6th, like, all right, here is your 4-year max extension that now gives you 5 more years with us under contract. And he says, no, I want to wait. I want to test free agency. That's a tough thing, man. Like I said, when you've given up all you've given up from, can they take that risk? Can they go into next year with him?
I really think they do.
It's possible. It's possible. But if they don't,
the Lakers it's gonna are, I guess, an option we're all going to talk about. I don't have that. I'll be honest. I'm not saying and come in here prepared for today's show, but I was dead set on sticking with the Cavs. I don't have that team that I think. Like I don't agree with I don't think the Knicks either. I don't have that team that I could see being the other place he'd be dealt to, I really think he stays, and this team makes every effort to make him happy, because I don't think he's particularly unhappy in Cleveland. I think he sees the, what they're building and what they're trying to do. I like the Cavs, but it's really tough. We see it with so many teams in the league of getting to that next level where you're truly a legitimate title contender. To that, what the T-Wolves are doing right now.
I think he's played in 2 small markets, and he's learning to play in a big time under the stars in Tinseltown. Are you kidding me? Being the first guy to wear number 45 in the purple and gold since AC Green. Wow. You know what? We got to see it. I think it's going to happen.
That's a good point.
That jersey history is why we have you here, Brad.
Thank you.
But I will say this, because I do think it's definitely possible. He does actually just sign the extension this summer. Like, I think it's, definitely a possibility. If that does happen, we'll be right back here doing the same thing in a couple months, except for Darius Garland instead of Donovan Mitchell. Yeah. So either way, we got content. Thank you, Cleveland. Okay, on the topic of this summer, and kind of still sticking in that Cavs, Lakers, LeBron universe, one of the most fascinating things to monitor will be whether Bronny James gets drafted and whether it impacts LeBron's future at all. Remember, LeBron can hit free agency if he declines his player option for next season. Now, the LA Times' Dan Wojcicki reported recently that multiple executives have discussed the possibility of drafting Bronny in the first round in hopes that it could lure his dad as a free agent. So the question is, if you guys were NBA executives, NBA team executives, and drafting Bronny increased your chances of signing LeBron this summer, even incrementally, would you do it?
Tyler, you want to go first, so then Cash could agree with me again?
Yeah, okay. I'll set the table. So I'm doing a little bit of a dive on this because do you think that Bronny will be a first? I've seen over-unders set at like the first round, and I just don't see how that's
this
realistic.
Is the thing, right? Like, I think if you're going by kind of, well, first of all, obviously
talent.
His freshman year was so derailed by that heart issue, right?
100%.
And going into college, I know he wasn't like a top tier recruit, but I think he was like a top 30 recruit. Like, he was at least projected to be a second rounder, if nothing else, right? Before the heart issue. And then, so I think there is potential there. Like, I think there's almost been an overcorrection at this point where people are so down on him that they are forgetting, okay, even other than the name, there was something there that made talent evaluators and scouts see something as like a potential 3-and-D guy. I know he's undersized. He's really athletic. He actually had a good shooting performance in the combine. Like, I could see him potentially being a solid NBA role player as a 3-and-D guy. Not saying that's going to happen, but there's like a path there. Now, having said that, I still think you're talking about maybe a second rounder, maybe an undrafted free agent in what's probably the worst draft class in at least 11 years. That doesn't speak well to him. And so to your point, no, he's not a first rounder by any measure.
I would just be super surprised.
And that's what's crazy, right, about this. And that's why it's like, would you do that? If you are an NBA executive and you don't think Bronny James is a first round talent, you're not even convinced he's an NBA talent. It's kind of like you're taking a flyer on him. So do you do that just for the maybe 5% extra chance you're signing LeBron?
I was doing some research just on what the overall hit rate is on guys going in the second round. This study was a little bit old. It's like 3-4 years old now. But typically from 2010 to 2020, second round picks, you got about a 20% chance that they're an active NBA player by the time they get through their first few years in the league. So you take a 20% hit rate on a second round player, and then you take, what's the percent chance that LeBron James wants to play with his son? It might be more than 20%. And if I could get LeBron James for Bronny James, I'm certainly entertaining the idea if I'm a team drafting the back end of the second round. I think he was a guy that definitely, like you said, still has talent. The blood clot issue or the heart issue was something that definitely kept him from, really being able to understand his true potential in the league. And if he, which he should have done, stayed another year in college, I think he would have seen a pretty sizable amount of growth, because I thought he saw a decent amount of growth. I remember watching a good portion of the latter half of USC's season and in their conference tournament play, and I did see, some of the things that people would be excited about with him. So I would honestly definitely consider taking the chance in the second round, because again, you don't have that high chance of hitting on some of these guys. You could look to some more veteran college players, some guys that have been, 3-4 year guys, that you could take chances on as well with a little bit more experience, and what you're going to get. But there is that little bit of lottery ticket on the Sun, which is something I would consider for sure.
You banking on that lottery chance, Brad?
So my short answer is 100% yes. My long answer, I personally think it's a win-win. And, you draft Bronny, who a lot of people think is not NBA ready and should go back to college. A lot of people think that. But he did show up and show out at the Combine. He finished second in the three-point contest. And he did finish top 5 in the vertical for a 6'1" guy, same height as me, 40.5 inches. I can't even do half of that. He has a 6'7" wingspan. He's 6'1", like I said. He dropped 13 points at a Combine game. Yes, it's the Combine, but people are fighting for their NBA lives. And even if he's not NBA ready now, the kid is full of potential. His draft stock certainly went up. He's probably I would say mid to late, probably mid-second round pick. But I'm high on Bronny. Now, if you can get Bronny, which ultimately would attract LeBron, that's a marketing dream. Sold out arenas, the merch, it's must-see TV. I mean, you're getting arguably the greatest player of all time during their twilight years with a lot left in the tank. He'll probably retire there. Plus, the man is still hungry at 39 going on 40. So wherever he goes, he still has that dog in him, obviously. He still wants to win. Plus, worst case, Bronny goes to the G League for a little to develop his game, so be it. But, what would be interesting, though, to see is if the Lakers do draft him a little early or a lot early. They do have pick 17. Imagine they can secure LeBron by saying we're going to commit to Bronny at the 17 spot. Yeah, I'm not ruling that out from happening, but if I'm an NBA exec, if my name is Brad Pelinka, I am drafting Bronny for sure.
All right, so I know I came up with these questions as the host, and so this is going to seem like a cowardly cop-out.
No, I don't know.
And I will take the boos that come both from the studio and from those listening to us, but I'm going to say it depends because it depends on what the team you're the executive for is like the position they're in, right? Yeah. If you're a team that is genuinely like one piece or a LeBron type piece away from contention where he completes the puzzle perfectly, and I'm literally thinking of like in terms of the way teams are constructed right now, Cleveland again actually fits that bill. Yeah. And like a Philly, if you're one of those, if you're Cleveland or Philly or something like that, and you can increase your odds of signing LeBron James this summer, even incrementally, I'd do it. I'd take a flyer on Bronny, especially in this very weak draft class where I'm not that worried about missing out on like some potentially transcendent talent. But if I'm not a team like that, I don't think I'm reaching for a guy I'm not even sold on as an NBA talent just to incrementally increase my odds of landing a 39-year-old free agent. And I realize that LeBron James obviously is not your average 39-year-old free agent. He's not your average 39-year-old anything. But if you're not one of those teams that LeBron is completing the puzzle for, like if he's taking you from an team to like a solid play-in team or something, I don't know if you're doing that, again, for a guy at his age who isn't going to be there for the long haul. Yeah. That's to me a much riskier gamble. So again, it's cowardly, but my answer isn't yes or no. It depends.
What about a big city? What about like?
I know I take those boos. I deserve them.
What about like we're in Toronto, big city. What about a Houston or a Toronto where you're finishing your career in one of these bigger cities that you might be curious about living in? Like, do you think that has any
Toronto would be
any weight?
Toronto, and I don't just say this as us sitting here in Toronto. Toronto would actually be fascinating because what a way to complete the career arc, the LeBronto arc, right? The story arc, the career arc to come, but again, even then, and I realize how crazy it sounds as someone sitting in Toronto, growing up a Raptors fan, to say I don't know if they would do that, but like. I don't know if a team in that position would do that, right? Like kind of early in their rebuild. Like, yeah, obviously LeBron improves any team. But if he's not truly putting you into contender status at his age when you know he's not going to be there for the long haul, are you really going to go out of your way to make what you think is the wrong pick just to slowly increase your odds? It's too risky.
By the way, the Knicks have the 24th pick, the 25th pick, and the 38th pick. 24, 25 might be a little too early. I think after the decision, that dreadful decision, the only hiccup in LeBron's entire career, in my opinion, that was a little crazy. He teased Knicks fans plenty with that. I think that bold decision, but the Knicks draft Bronny at 38, and LeBron comes to the Garden. How's that for a hot take?
That's big. That's the big city too.
That's why we got you here, Brad, for those hot takes.
And
the jersey.
What was I going to say?
Thank you.
Oh, if you have the last pick, whoever's going to have the last pick, you would do it if he was still available, right? Because then you'd still negotiate with any undrafted free agents.
Yeah.
Like you're going to risk some other teams getting to talk to that player, but like there's still something there in drafting Bronny in terms of the way with LeBron.
Yeah,
so.
there's an upside there that doesn't come.
Last pick is Dallas. Imagine Luka, LeBron.
Is that sorry, I don't even know. Does last pick go to the NBA champion?
No, the last pick just goes to usually it would go to the team with the best record because the second round isn't lottery. But this year there's only 58 picks because two teams lost their second rounders as part of like tampering rules. And,
I have Dallas at 58.
Okay, so there you go. There's Brad's vision. Went from
Houston,
LeBron and Mitchell in LA. Now it's LeBron and Luka in Dallas. Again, I've said before, time moves at the speed of light in the NBA. God. And on this show, it moves in 20 minutes. Okay. Before we get out of here, I don't know how deep we need to go into this, so I just want to ask you guys quickly, like, does either one of you think the Pacers has a chance in this series? Because we already talked Mavs-Wolves a little bit in talking Doncic and Edwards. The Eastern Conference Finals, like the ugly stepsister of this playoffs. Mm-hmm. Do the Pacers have a shot?
Come on, Brad.
I'm going to say yes. I'm going to go first. Right. Age before beauty. I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes. The Pacers are riding a ton of momentum after shooting the greatest field goal percentage in playoff history. They won 2 in a row. Game 6, Game 7 at the Garden, which is tough. A depleted Knicks team, might I add, for the third time. Plus, they're such a deep team, though. I hate to give them credit. It's killing me after Reggie Miller put out that tweet. Oh, it's killing me. But Kristaps is hurt for, I think, Game 1 and Game 2. Correct me if I'm wrong, Cash.
Yep. Believe you're correct.
Who knows how he'll be the rest of the way.
If he comes back at all.
If he comes back at all. Who's guarding Miles Turner? He's been a problem. I hate to say it, but he has been. Plus, I'd love to be able to say that the Knicks lost to the conference champs. The Celtics are tough, but I'm not counting out Indy.
I kind of agree with Brad a little bit. I definitely don't think I see the Pacers winning this series, but I could see them winning 2 games. When you talk about, I think the differences with Thibodeau and the Knicks, they wanted to kind of keep their bigs inside and Turner kind of let loose from 3 a little bit. The Celtics can do a much better job defending from there, especially with Horford at that spot too, and just being multiple defensively against a guy like that. But again, the Celtics are a team that are super reliant on the 3. The Pacers have a great depth. Like I'm taking their bench over Boston's bench every single time with the guys that they can go to. I think they could pull 2 games out of this series. I think they lose tonight when we're recording before Game 1. I do think the Celtics take care of business with that little bit of extra rest too. But I do think the Pacers could grab 1 or 2 games because, again, you've seen the Celtics. It's only been in literally 1 game of a series, maybe 2 in some games that were the closer game there was that Game 5. No, Game 4 that they won. That was a little bit tighter when Mitchell was out. But I do think that the Pacers, with the way that the pace they can play with, and they'll probably try to play at that high pace, that they could steal a couple games of this series.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree and say they don't have much of a chance. I hope they do because I want it to be a good series. Yeah. And I agree that the Celtics haven't really hit their stride in the playoffs. Like they haven't kicked it into high gear. And even though they won each of their first 2 series in 5 games, like it wasn't that pretty. They lost both Game 2s to a Miami team without Jimmy Butler. Mm-hmm. They got pushed in that Game 4, as you mentioned, by a Cleveland team without Donovan Mitchell. Yep. Like, they haven't looked great, but I still think they're just so much better than this Pacers team, even without Porzingis, with home court advantage. I think they'll win in 5 again. And I think it's really funny because the Celtics went 64-18. They finished 7 games clear of any other team in the overall standings. If you look like statistically at their point differential, their net rating, the gap between their net rating and the second-ranked Thunder, they literally had one of the 5 to 10 most dominant seasons in NBA history statistically. Mm-hmm. And then they're probably going to get to the finals with something like a 12-3 playoff record. So you're looking at we're going to go into the finals probably with a Celtics team that on the whole has gone like 76-23 over the year. Yeah, and yet I still think it's fair that we're going to go into that finals being like, okay, now show me what you got. Yeah. Because there's something about it that just doesn't feel real in terms of being that dominant, right? Like
you've had every other team have their number one guy. give you give us their moment. Like we've seen even Donovan Mitchell with that 50-point game. We've obviously seen it from Anthony Edwards. We haven't really seen it from Tatum. I can't really pinpoint a game so far in this postseason where you're like, this is our number one option. This is our guy. This is the guy that can win us a game, win us a series. They've had their Derek White games. They've had some Jason Tatum games, but they have not had that star shining moment from Jason Tatum. And I think it might not come until the final.
It's very possible.
They haven't been tested at all. Their backs have not been against the wall, and it could be a good thing. I mean, they might just like blow every team out. Yeah. But I don't know. I think they're in for a rude awakening. I think that the Indiana Pacers can shock the world. And even if the Celtics do make the NBA Finals, which they probably will, it's not going to be an easy series.
No, I think that's definitely when, regardless of whether it's Minnesota or Dallas, I think they will be tested in the finals.
Yeah,
I mean,
agreed.
They almost have to be. But I think we can put a bow on episode 2 there. Next time we're back here talking to you, might still be the conference finals. We might be talking about a finals matchup. We'll see. Until then, make sure you at least like and subscribe. For Tyler McKillop, for Brad Parker, I'm Joseph Casciaro. Thanks for watching.